And welcome to another edition of Duck Snow Sports. This week, I'm previewing the upcoming 2013-2014 NHL season. Should be interesting. I'm going to give my top 5 storylines, in my opinion, going into the year. I'm going to give you all my awards and my cup team, my team who's going to win the Stanley Cup. And we'll start with storylines here with number 5. Can the Blackhawks repeat? Big question going. Of course, Blackhawks last year were just, from start to finish, the best team. From start to finish, the end, we're the best team. Can they repeat? Will it be as good as last year? I don't think so. They've lost some pieces like Bolin and some other pieces in the offseason. They won't be as good. They will still be a good team. They'll still be a playoff type team. But I don't think the Blackhawks will repeat. Crawford will have to play out of his mind just like he did last year if they have a chance to repeat. The West getting a little weaker with the Wings going over the East, but still the Blackhawks will have a good season. Good season, but are they the best team in the West? I don't think so, and I think the Blackhawks will not repeat in 2013-2014. Number 4. Who will fall back to the pack? Big question every year. Every year there's a few teams that always fall back. It's hard to continue to be as good year in, year out. But who will fall back? Teams, a few teams. I think the Bruins will fall back. I don't think they'll be as dominant as they've been the last couple years. Losing Thornton in the offseason, losing Andrew Ference. So I think it will be a bigger loss than people laying on. I think Andrew Ference going to the Oilers is a big pickup for the Oilers. Big loss for Bruins. I think the Bruins are one of those teams that will fall back. I think a team like the Caps, they can't hide in a weak division. They're in a real division now. It'll be interesting how the Capitals do. Ovechkin, year out, gets a little worse every year. I don't think the Caps will be that good. Another team I think will flag, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't believe in the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. I think, hey, good for them in making the playoffs only last year, but I don't think the Maple Leafs are that team that's good at consistently. I just want to see a full season with the Leafs. So I think the Maple Leafs, as people think they're going to be 5th again in the East, I don't see it. Fall back, maybe not out of the playoffs, maybe down to 8th place, but I just don't believe in the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. My third question coming in the year, can the Penguins bounce back? Of course, last year it looked like given, mid-season it was going to be the Blackhawks versus the Pens. Looked pretty much all through playoffs. It was going to be that until they ran into the Bruins in the conference finals and got ran over. Didn't look good. Crosby, no points. Malkin, no points. Very, very disappointing for the Penguins last year. And it'll be interesting because the Penguins aren't as good as they are on paper. Are they a good team? Yes. But are they that great team that's going to go to the Stanley Cup? I don't know. Sidney Crosby, when on the ice, is the best player in the world, but isn't on the ice enough. Malkin, great player, but it seems the playoffs he kind of goes away a little. And in goaltending, that's a whole other story that I don't have time to talk about that because Penguins goaltending will stop the Penguins, I believe, from winning a Stanley Cup this year. Is their goaltending? They gotta get that tightened up because the Penguins expect to go to the Stanley Cup this year. Marc-Andre Fleury will have to go back, being the Marc-Andre Fleury was. I truly believe the reason they kept him was because of that reason. And it'll be interesting. Can the Penguins bounce back? I say they can. Go to the Stanley Cup? I don't think so, but I think the Penguins will have a great regular season. My number 2 question coming in the year is, how will the Red Wings adjust to the Eastern Conference? Of course, big move in the offseason. Red Wings finally going over the East after they've been begging for years. Finally going over to the East. Should be interesting because the Wings' style of high fly, up and down the ice, really fits better in the East. I mean, besides really the Bruins, there's no really other team that doesn't do the high and fly kind of stuff. And it will be interesting because I think the Wings now, this is a perfect situation. I think the Wings going to a weaker conference, in my opinion, will slide up. Whether they 7th last year, I think they can slide up easily to 4th place in the Eastern Conference. I really believe the Red Wings will have a good year. And I think people are finally in the East Coast are finally going to see how good some of these players like Datsuk, who in my opinion is a top 3 player in the league. Howard, great goalie. I really believe the Red Wings are going to have a great season. And I really believe the Red Wings, maybe not a Stanley Cup contender, but I really believe the Red Wings are going to have a great regular season, and the Red Wings are going to go back to the playoffs again, probably for what, like the 25th year in a row, 20 millionth year in a row, it seems like. Always go to the playoffs every year. And the Red Wings, we're finally going to see how good this team is with that literally, now they're off the West Coast. And I think Detroit Red Wings will have a great regular season and will adjust just fine to the Eastern Conference. But my number one storyline going here has to be, can these young teams like the Oilers, the Islanders, finally kick down the door and be that consistent contender? Even throw the Senators in that mix. I mean, I think with the Oilers, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this team to be that team, to be the next great team in the NHL. But it just, for some reason, year in, year out, just doesn't happen for them. An injury happens, this happens, that happens, just doesn't happen. And I truly believe this is the year that the Oilers, with the Red Wings out of the West, so now there's an open spot, I truly believe the Oilers are going to make the playoffs this year. I really like the Oilers this year. Now, will they win the West? No, I don't go crazy like that, but I think it's not crazy to think the Oilers to finish, maybe 5th, 6th in the West. I think that's not the craziest thing in the world. Another team like the Islanders, really surprising last year. Finally got to the playoffs. We finally got to see how good John Tavares is. Probably a top 10, maybe not top 10, maybe not quite top 10 yet, but definitely on his way to a top 10 player in the league right now. We finally got to see how good some of these players on the Islanders, and can they continue that? That's the question. Can they continue? Taking the Penguins to the brink last year, very, very impressive in that first round last year. But the Islanders, they'll have to maybe set their game up a little, just because now people are going to expect them to be good. And the hardest thing to win in any sport is like when you're expected to win, it's hard to win. But I expect the Islanders to continue to be good. I expect the Islanders to still be a playoff team. They're 8th last year. I could see them maybe being 8th again. I don't know if they'll slide up all the way to like 3rd or 4th. I don't think they're quite there yet. But I really like the Islanders. I think they'll be 8th, 7th, 6th in that range. And I really like a team like the Islanders, and they're on the rise. Trust me. Maybe not 5 years, but in the next 10 years, I believe the New York Islanders will win a Stanley Cup. As crazy as that sounds, I believe the Islanders. I think John Tavares is for real. I really like this team. And yeah, I think some of these young teams are finally going to take over the NHL and finally prove that young players and young teams are here to stay, like the Oilers and the Islanders. All right, off to my awards. My MVP is going to be Pavel Datsyuk. Finally playing the Eastern Conference. People are going to finally see how good he is. I think Pavel Datsyuk is your MVP. Norris, I like Shea Weber. In my opinion, Shea Weber is the best defenseman in the NHL. And I think Shea Weber will be your Norris. Vezina, who else can I pick here but Seth, the best goalie on planet Earth? Of course, I'm talking about Jonathan Quick, just on a different level than everybody else in the league. And my Stanley Cup, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Kings. Take home another cup in 2 out of 3 years as they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, the Penguins get the Stanley Cup, but the brick wall known as Jonathan Quick will get in the way, and the LA Kings are your 2013-2014 Stanley Cup champions. Well, it should be an interesting season to say the least. And until next time, I'm Aaron Duxbury saying I'm Ducks, and I know sports. Kind of.